Hey guys, this is Tyforce Reacts, and welcome back to part 3 of my review of Fairy Tail, as well as the final part of my review of Fairy Tail. We come a long way. 2 1-hour videos so far, and unless you're watching the full video, and and this is congratulations, you're at over 2 hours. I don't know why you stuck around to watch me stumble through this mess of a video, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to. It's going to be hell to edit this all and get it out on Sunday. But yeah, I never thought I'd be creating a video this long. But yeah, alright, so okay, let's just get right into it. We only have 3 arcs to do, but at the same time, there's a lot going on here, and then I have to sum it all up. Some of my entire thoughts. So, let's start with Fairy Tail Zero, as it was called. Fairy Tail Zero is basically the prequel, and you know it's good when even Zach, my friend who I previously mentioned, even he praises this arc, which says a lot. So basically it centers around Mavis Vermilion. I actually looked that up recently, and yeah, it was Vermilion. I did not get it confused with, the Vermilions from Black Clover. So, anyway. So, basically, she actually lived on Tamaro Island, aka, that place, that was the center of an arc before the 7-year time skip. But, yeah, then, but her entire village, the place she lived, was pretty much burned to the ground. And she was the only survivor, along with her friend Zira. And, they pretty much lived there the rest for a long time after that. Pretty sure they were teenagers by the time they met other people, but yeah, they were, so basically, they pretty much lived there reading the books that were still in the library, then along came a guy. Then along came basically a group of treasure hunters made up of Yuri Dreyer, Precht, and Warred. And if the latter two had last names, I can't remember, but it's not like that matters, because Yuri's last name is the only one that matters. Yuri would go on to be Makarov's father, Precht would go on to be the second guildmaster, and Hades, and Warred would go on to be one of the 4 gods of Ishgard, one of the strong, and all of them would go on to become the founders of Fairy Tail. So yeah, we already got a dream team if we already know who they are, and yeah, it's so after convincing Yuri to take them along with her, they pretty much leave the island, and Mavis is pretty much searching for the Dark Guild, I guess, that ruined her life. So, or something like that. I honestly haven't watched Zero in forever. It's another one of those arcs I haven't seen in a long time. But yeah, I usually just stop after Tartaros. But anyway, so basically, she intimidated one Dark Guild with her illusion magic, and then accidentally bumped into Zeref momentarily. We'll get into that later. Then at a later point, they decided to take on an entire Dark Guild. I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was the guild that ruined her life. But yeah, her illusion magic just wasn't cutting it. So yeah, the guild saw through that pretty easily, and pretty much they were run out of town. So they quickly realized they're no match for experienced wizards. So on a chance encounter, Mavis goes to I guess wash her clothes. I can't remember, whatever. But then someone pops out of the pond that she was going to, and it was Zeref. So that's fun. That of course the best the best kinds of meetings are when one of them is naked. So yeah, but anyway. But just as Zeref was about to leave, Mavis managed to warm up to him, and with her illusion magic creating beings that he can't technically kill. So yeah, even though he can't interact with them, it was still nice to him. So he agrees to teach these people magic. So yeah, Mavis pretty much helped out with the illusion magic. Zira got fire magic. Yuri got lightning magic. And Ward got tree magic, and Prakti was able to first fire bullets like a finger gun, and then later on was able to make a chain. And using these newfound powers, once they gotten a pretty good mastery of them, Zareth left, hoping to really never see them again, I guess. But maybe he hoped he would see them again, I guess. But at the same time, he knows he can't stay around them for very long. Otherwise, he'll grow attached and then eventually kill them, accidentally. So yeah, so they go and they take on that Dark Guild again, and this time beat them, and Mavis uses a spell called Fairy Law. I think it was like a proto-fairy law, and managed to take him out. And then it's revealed later that Mavis's friend Zira, she was just an illusion. It was a heartbreaking moment. Zira was once a real girl, but she died in that raid so many years ago, and Mavis literally created her in a sense of almost trauma, and subconsciously it was a subconscious reaction that her body created. Her magic created something that would probably keep her sane throughout these years. So yeah, once Mavis realized Zira wasn't real, Zira began to disappear, and it was a sad moment, and Yuri had to witness it all. And so yeah, that's basically where Fairy Tale Zero ended. And then we cut back to the present. Well, present, I would say, because it's now been 1 year, and everyone's been doing off on their own thing. Lucy got a job at Sorcerer Weekly, where she either modeled or wrote articles or whatever. So turns out she's been trying to keep track of everyone at Fairy Tale, but she's having a lot of trouble with a few. Excuse me. But yeah, then one day she went to the Grand Magic Games, and as she was watching these guys win, a wandering opponent in a robe walked in and began melting the entire arena with his presence alone. And as well as everyone's clothes, because of course this is Fairy Tale. So and you can't have a touching scene with Natsu and Lucy without Lucy losing her clothes. So yeah, that always seems to happen. Yep, because this is indeed Natsu, who just walked in to hope to to challenge whoever won this year's Grand Magic Games, and safe to say he promptly beat the crap out of them, as well as every other challenger. He receives an official pardon from the king and princess because Fairy Tale saved the entire kingdom all those years that year ago, with all the dragons and all that. So yeah, so Natsu goes to stay with Lucy and quickly realizes how down in the dumps Lucy is about the whole Fairy Tale thing and Fairy Tale disbanding thing, and yeah, decides, you know what, I'm gonna cheer her up, and decides to light the palace on fire with the words Fairy Tale, or I can't remember what it was. I haven't watched those episodes in a while, and pretty much announces Fairy Tale's comeback, and taking Lucy to run away from the guards that were chasing after them, and yeah, and that's basically where Fairy Tale 2014 came to an end, and we had to wait. Let's see here. We had to wait another 2.5 years for Fairy Tale to finally come back, and it was quite the great announcement when I heard it was back, because I had been reading the manga, and it was because I wasn't able to wait that long. Excuse me. But anyway, Yeah, so it came back, and so yeah, now Natsu and Lucy are on a journey to find every fairy tale member they can, and bring them back, and start the guild again. And I believe the first people they come upon is they came upon Wendy, who had joined the Lamia Scale Guild, and was even had her own act with Shelia and everything. Yeah, it was and then they were attacked by a dark guild. Apparently Blue Note was, remember him from Tenro Island, who had recently who had crushed basically Natsu and all them, and really only Guild Art stood a chance. Well, now with Natsu's help, they took him out fairly easily. Natsu one-shotted him, just to show how far Natsu's come since that moment. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, they basically convinced Wendy to come along with them, and while on the way, and they came across a town where it was perpetually raining, which was Juvia's whole thing before she met Gray, and now that it's doing that again, Juvia's got to be seriously down in the dumps, so they find her, and yeah, it turns out Gray left about 6 months ago or something to do something, who knows. So, and she mentioned like Gray was his Demon Slayer magic was like kind of enveloping his body like that. It was just kind of assumed, yeah, maybe it's taking over him somehow. Who knows how that works? So yeah, it was and thus pretty much this starts the Avatar arc, where there was this Avatar Dark Guild, and yeah, a lot of them, and they were more of a cult really, and yeah, and so it was in this arc we learned that Gray joined them, using full-on Demon Slayer pretty much at all times, and yeah, and we learned in this arc that Gajion Levy and Panther Lily, I forgot, also joined the Magic Council. Actually, became like captains of like the reinforcement unit, and yeah, and but then it doesn't take long before it turns out, yeah, Gray's not actually evil. he's been undercover this whole time under the employ of Urza. So yeah, then so after they deal with that whole shenanigan, they go to face off against Avatar and their forces, who are trying to sacrifice a lot of people to bring back Seraph. But even we all know this, like, okay, yeah, this is just kind of getting us back into the groove of fairy tale, because, oh yeah, there's this evil cult that's trying to resurrect Seraph. Oh, get in line, you morons. So yeah, but yeah, they're pretty much handling the grunts and even the higher-ups fairly easily. usually the higher-ups just go down one hit. So yeah, then one of pretty much the guild master of Avatar, like, pretty much sacrifices his own soldiers to do this, and summons like an ancient war god monster thing. It was called a war god, so I'm going to call it a god. So, and so what do? When it punches the ground, Natsu runs up its arm, gives a speech about friendship, and punches it with a Fire Dragon King's Demolition Fist. I'm not calling it Destruction Fist, even though that's not a bad name. I believe the dub kind of missed a mark, because I think Demolition Fist is a much better name. So, uses Fire Dragon King Demolition Fist, and one-shots the War God. So yeah, then after that, everyone who's there groups up. Oh yeah, I forgot. Before they went to find Gray, they went to Sabretooth and saw how everything was going there. Yeah, then Minerva's back to being a good person again, and because that's what happened in Targo's arc. I'm not sure if I elaborated on that, but yeah, basically she was brought back to being good. So she formally apologized to Lucy. I'm like, well, at least Fairy Tales knows how to do like a redemption arc. Like once they decide to become good, they need to start apologizing. So she's basically been apologizing the first second she gets with anyone she's personally wronged, like Lucy for one, and then Kagura later on. So yeah, it's great. So yeah, they had basically taken the job request from Rogue, because apparently back when future Rogue had said that Gray would kill Frosh on this certain day, like a year from now, and yeah, so that's basically why Natsu took the job and just told Rogue, don't worry, we'll handle it, bye. But yeah, once the whole thing with Avatar was over with, man, I need to stop making videos after I eat. So yeah, then Sting and Rogue came by with Frosh and Lecter to see the aftermath, and Frosh basically went right up to Gray, and you know, it was almost and it could have been a catastrophe, but of course Frosh is just too adorable to kill. So Gray just picks him up and just goes, "Oh, hey, buddy." And you know, yes, Frosh is adorable. There's no denying that. So yeah, and it was a great conclusion to that kind of thing. So yeah. So then everyone heads back to Magnolia, and Lucy's a bit scared that nobody's going to show up because it's been an entire year. But the bonds that Fairy Tail have are not broken that easily. And pretty much everyone shows up with, like, 2 exceptions, like Loxus and the Thunder Legion and Master Makarov. Loxus because him and the Thunder Legion went to Blue Pegasus, which is hard to imagine. Even Loxus is like, what stays in that guild hall stays in the guild hall. So, yeah. Then, and Makarov went over to the Alvarez Empire, which is on a continent, like, west, I believe, of Fiore, which is the continent, or Ishgar, I should say. So, yeah, and, simply to negotiate, because the last time the Alvarez Empire attacked, they were supposedly pushed back by the thought of, you know, Face and the Eclipse Cannon, or whatever that cannon was called. I can never remember what, Etherion Cannon, or, I don't know, maybe, I can never remember. So, yeah, and then, so, yeah. So, it was, yeah, so he went over there to, like, negotiate and, you know, wait for the Emperor to, you know, come by, and finally he can maybe negotiate peace and leave everyone, and leave, like, Fairy Tail out of it, which is the entire reason he disbanded Fairy Tail, because he couldn't bear the thought of, you know, them getting hurt because of this. But it turns out, this Alvarez Empire, the Emperor, he goes by Spriggan, but we may know him by another name, and that's Zareth. So, yeah, that's fun. But before, like, the whole, like, this new arc gets started with the Alvarez Empire, we're shown Zareth and, like, his whole flashback. Turns out he was a magic prodigy back 400 to 500 years ago, and his whole family was torched by dragons. So, and not feeling too great about this, he pretty much set off to trying to revive his dead brother, Natsu. So, yeah, Zareth's full name is Zareth Dragneel. So that's fun. Oh, man. But unfortunately, delving into that kind of magic to revive the dead, you're struck with the Curse of Contradiction, or the Curse of Ankh-Selim, I believe it was called. Where, you know, where the more you care about life, the more life dies around you. He pretty much accidentally killed his entire school, then killed a few forests before finally trying to get a handle on his power. Then started creating demons that would hopefully, you know, kill him one day, but none were as great as END, Aetherius Natsu Dragneel. So, yeah. As for how Natsu was transported, was made like 400 years into the future, we'll get to that later. Even Zareth says as much. So, yeah, then, when the fairy tale guild starts getting the guild hall starts getting rebuilt. Urza is declared the new guild master. Then excuse me. I really need to stop making videos after I eat. Immediately after I eat, anyway. So, anyway. So Mess shows up, and it turns out he's always been a member of Fairy Tail. It's just a really long and complicated string of events that... It was weird. You could have just had a whole redemption arc for him. It would have been great. But anyway. So basically he shows Urza down to where the Lumen Histoire is. And which was, you know, I mentioned earlier, was basically this huge guild secret that only Masters knew. But, of course, Natsu, Gray, and Lucy, and Happy, I guess, decided to spy on them. And so they pretty much learned, like, the whole thing. But Mest has limited information, of course, so really, they just need to find Makarov and the rest who hadn't shown up. And Gajil from above is listening to the entire thing because Dragon Slayer hearing. So he pretty much gets Mirror Jane, Lizana, Juvia, Levy, and if there was anyone else, and Panther Lily, of course, and decides to go off on this reuniting of Fairy Tail Team B, and I think Kana went with them too. So yeah, so this reuniting of Fairy Tail Team B by finding Loxus, while the others of Natsu, Gray, Lucy, Urza, Mest, and Happy and Carla. Oh, and Wendy, I forgot. And Wendy went to find Master Makarov. So, well, when they got to the Alvarez Empire, they snuck in, and it was a really neat, smart move, like, with the guild, with the using Kate Shelter Guild, emblems on them instead of, their typical Fairy Tail Guild emblems, because if they did that, they would be immediately arrested. So, yeah. It was during this time that they came across Brandish and her minion guy. I'm not gonna mention him. He's just weird. So, yeah, Brandish, and she basically shows what kind of power she can do. Basically, she can enlarge and shrink anything she wants. Literally anything she wants. And she demonstrated this by enlarging the island they were on and then shrinking it down to the size of this mouse. So, and apparently there are 11 more of her, or something like that. I can't remember how many there are, but I'm pretty sure there was the Spriggan 12. Basically, Zeref's elite, and some are more important than others. Yeah, and Brandish isn't even at the top, so, yeah. So they managed to go and rescue Makarov from being killed by Zeref, and managed to escape with the help of Loxus, who blasted down basically a nuke of lightning, a lightning nuke on Agiel, who's another one of the Spriggan 12. He uses sand magic, and he could put Gara in to shame. So yeah, and the only reason Agiel apparently survived was because August, another one of the Spriggan 12, and supposedly the strongest of them, was there. So yeah, and it's even questioned if August could beat Zeref. So yeah, and so they go back to Fairy Tail, and Mavis explains the entire thing. She explains that when she had used the proto-fairy law spell, she had used it incorrectly, and she had stopped aging. But not only that, she had gained the curse of contradiction. She chose who lived and who died, basically. And that was the punishment for, using a proto-fairy law, basically. So, yeah, it was, But fortunately, she hadn't really understood the meaning of life yet, and considering she had been in a war, she had to be desensitized to that kind of stuff, so that only made sense. And then Makarov's wife bore a child. Yuri Dreyer's wife bore a child named Makarov. And when Mavis held the hand of Yuri's wife died. So, yeah. So, upon witnessing the miracle of birth, she realized the true meaning, how much life truly matters, and guns it out of there. She learned of this curse via Zareth, who she accidentally ran into again, and had explained the whole thing to her. So, about 6 months or a year later, I guess, unable to kill herself, she had pretty much resided in a forest, just completely dead to the world. And Zareth found her, and that was where Zareth found her again, and explained, his whole situation, becoming, an emperor in Alakatasia, I think that's what the continent was called, becoming Emperor Spriggan and all that. But then the curse starts, he starts contradicting himself, and, saying something wasn't fun, then saying it was fun, and yeah, it once the curse really takes hold of you, even your own thoughts become contradictory. So, but Mavis manages to hug him and say, I will not reject you, and all this good lovey-dovey stuff, and in an act of love they shared a kiss, but unfortunately Zareth's curse overrode hers, and Mavis was killed while Zareth wasn't. And even though Mavis still had a bit of magic, she might as well have been dead. So Zareth took Mavis back to Fairy Tale, and pretty much explained, and so Mavis was put into this crystal and trying to resurrect her with as many resurrection spells as he could find. Eventually one of them did succeed, actually, but he didn't know. So, yeah, but during this event, he accidentally created, basically, through all this resurrection spells, he had accidentally created something far worse. It was named the Fairy Heart, or Luminissoir, and yeah, it's apparently, according to Mavis, an infinite source of magic. Infinite. And the only reason that Fairy Tale doesn't use it is because it's incredibly difficult to control that kind of power, which is obvious. It's infinite magic. So, yeah. It was, So, yeah. And that was basically why Alvarez attacked the first time, and the only reason they pulled back was not because of the threats the council faced them with. It was because Zareth pulled them back, because, as he explained to Makarov, you know what it's like to deal with rowdy children. So, yeah. So, and if it seems like I'm going into more detail about Alvarez, that's I kind of have to. I literally just watched it. So, yeah. So, sure enough, they start the Magnolia Defensive War, where basically all of Alvarez attacks Magnolia at once, and in the process, there's a lot of things that go on. I don't want to make this video any longer than it is, but basically Agil and his forces are completely repelled. There's a guy named Wall who manages to break through Freed's enchantment around the whole city, and yeah, then goes to fight the Thunder Legion, and surprisingly Ichia, who has been there the whole time, unbeknownst to everyone. But Wall made a mistake to underestimate Ichia, the mad lad, the god, and so with Ichia's help, they managed to take down Wall, but turns out that's not Wall's real body. It was a mechanical copy, and the real Wall is elsewhere with Demaria and another one of the Spriggan 12. We'll get to her later. Ugh. So, meanwhile, Brandis just showed up in Lucy's bathtub randomly, and yeah, and reveals that her mother and Lucy's mother were once good friends. And yeah, and there's just so much plot happening, I can't help but have to explain it all. So, and apparently Layla had killed Grammy being Brandish's mom. So, yeah, it was quite the plot twist, and then but then Agiel's whole desert world thing and had sprout out but apparently before Urza defeated him, it spit all like the pollen and stuff into the air and just crap into the air, and Brandish's allergies acted up. And that's how Brandish was swiftly knocked out by Kana, and yeah, they were just then just put her in her cell. And that's how you take down a girl who can enlarge and shrink anything she wants. Have her allergies act up. So yeah. Then let's see what else we got. And then basically, but then while the real Wall like charges his own like little Jupiter cannon arms, and fires it. Everyone's wondering how the heck are we going to stop that, and really the only solution is to evacuate the guild, which is about to be blown up by the Jupiter cannon. And then Ichia, the Mad Lad, the angel, the god, manages to fly his flying ship, the Christina, into the way, basically destroys the Christina, and yeah, and then calls all of Fiore, all of the guilds, all of the friends we had made along the way to come in and defend Fairy Tail, and yeah, it's great. And unfortunately, we're about to encounter another interruption, so I'm just give me a second. And we're back. So, yeah, we're not even like halfway through this whole thing. So yeah, okay. So yeah. So then, while they're doing this whole thing, Natsu decides to go off on his own to face off against Zeref and his army of 1 million soldiers because he's got control over a whole empire. So yeah, Natsu's got a trick up his sleeve, and it's the last bit of magic that Igneel gave to him before Igneel died. So yeah, it's quite the thing. So after he managed to take out almost 1,000 soldiers without even using that magic, Zeref himself showed up, and Natsu activated, Fire Dragon King mode, and managed to almost completely overwhelm Zeref. And the only reason he doesn't completely kill Zeref is because Zeref reveals, who Natsu truly is, and how, and who he is both biologically and not biologically, END and Zeref's brother. So yeah, it's quite the thing. And he also reveals that the dragons with the plan to kill Acnologia all those years ago had implanted themselves into the Dragon Slayers 400 years ago, and then sent them forward in time via the Eclipse Gate, thanks to two celestial spirits named Anna and Layla. Anna being Anna Heartfilia, and with that she'd passed down these words to down generations to Layla, and eventually get to Layla, where in an age where magic is abundant, unlike the age Anna was in. So using that kind of complicated time trickery, they managed to open the Eclipse Gate and sent the Dragon Slayers through, as well as Anna, but we'll get to that later. So just when Natsu and Zeref, right before Natsu's about to give a finishing blow, Zeref informs him, because you are a demon of the Book of Zeref, if you kill me, you'll die too. So once he hears that, Happy just kind of has enough and pulls Natsu out of there. Unfortunately, the Fire Dragon King mode was a limited time thing, and it was already burning out, and so by the time they got back to Magnolia, it had already burned out. And then Natsu went into a coma. Because, yeah, according to their medic, who's a reoccurring character named Porliuska, she it was an excess of magic power that Natsu constantly does. So, and it's got like an anti-ether nano tumor that's been embedded in him. So Brandish I should probably explain what Brandish's whole deal is. When Brandish is about to kill Lucy after gaining a bit of Lucy's trust, Aquarius shows up out of nowhere and decides to set the story straight, and basically informs that when Layla opened the Eclipse Gate all the way back when, she couldn't get her hands on the Aquarius key, which was given to Grammy, and Grammy had already moved to Alakatoshia and couldn't get the message in time, so Layla had to use some of her own life force instead, and that's what ultimately caused Layla to get sick and die. So, and Grammy came back to apologize profusely, and then as Grammy was leaving, Zordio, the guy who possessed Capricorn way back when, back in that was explained in the Tenro Island arc, killed Grammy via backstab. What a jerk. So yeah, then so when Natsu's brought in and the whole situation is explained, Brandish offers her services to shrink the tumor to a point where it's no longer going to be an issue because of how small it'll be. So yeah, so that's what happens, and while Brandish is no longer an enemy, she still is willing to keep herself being prisoner because, because while she is no longer an enemy, she says, I'm not a friend to you guys either. So yeah, it's a thing. So meanwhile, all these guilds are fighting Sabretooth, and I believe it was not Mermaid Hill. It was I think it's just mostly Sabretooth. Sabretooth and Blue Pegasus, I think, go off to face off against one army coming in from the north, I believe, and they get wrecked by a guy named Bloodman, and Bloodman can use all the curses from Tartaros, so that still sucks. So and then meanwhile back in Hargion, which was actually where Natsu and Lucy first met. Another army was being faced off against by Mermaid Heel and Lamia Scale. So, but they were also promptly getting their butts kicked. So Fairy Tail has to come in and bail everyone out, basically. So yeah, so basically, I believe Gajia Levy and the Strausses went to aid Sabretooth, and then Urza, Wendy, and I think, and Loxus and Gray, I believe that's it. Go to help Mermaid Heel and Lamia Scale. So during that process, Loxus takes down Wall for revenge against the Thunder Legion, and manages to expel all the remaining Bane particles that were still in his system a year later, and thanks to some trickery. So then Urza and Kagra, along with Jalal, who just showed up, decide to go onto the ship where another one of the Spriggan 12, I believe his name is Nineheart, to fight him, and he has his whole magic thing is Historia, where he can basically look into someone's past and bring out a phantom opponent for them, basically. And yeah, so there's Simon who was brought back, there was Kyoka Simon from the Tower of Heaven arc, and then Kyoka from the Tartaros arc, Azuma from the Tenro Island arc, and Ikaruka, who was a villain in the Tower of Heaven arc. So yeah, I think that was her name at least. So yeah, and then Jalal and Kagura are briefly incapacitated, but they then come back and help Urza take everyone down. So yeah, then including Neidhart. So yeah, then meanwhile Wendy decides to go and help Shelia whatever against Demaria. Remember her? Yeah, apparently she has control over time. Time magic, basically. And she can stop time. She can Zawarudo this whole thing, and is about to kill Wendy, Shelia, and Carla. But then they start breaking free of this whole time stop thing, as if they were doing All-Star Platinum up in here. So, but as it turns out, that this whole time shenanigan thing is a point in between time, basically. And thanks to what Altair did back in the Grand Magic Games arc, when everyone was dying, basically, she cursed herself to an existence within a plane like this. So she was nearby to help them out, and and was able to get them out of the time stop. But yeah, that was really all she can do. She can't. Other than that, she can't interfere in the fight. Carla takes a fatal shot, but she's briefly put back into the time stop just to stop bleeding, basically. And Altair offers them a choice to unlock their third origin, which is basically what happened when Gon from Hunter x Hunter took on Pito and accessed pretty much a lot of future strength. That's basically what she's offering here, but Altair basically says, yeah, once this is used, that is it. You will no longer be able to use magic. And it's also revealed that Demaria is similar to like the Strausses and their takeover stuff. While she has God takeover magic, more specifically Kronos, though Kronos is a Titan, but whatever. Time that whole time thing. At least that's consistent. So, so yeah, since Chili is a God Slayer, she's the one who takes it and defeats Demaria pretty handily. And yeah, so yeah, she sacrifices all her magic to save her friends and all that. So yeah. Then okay, back north, we get Gajiel and Levi going up against Bloodman, and Bloodman's releasing all these Bane particles into the air. And Levi gets infected basically, but excuse me. So yeah, then Gajiel manages to absorb all these Bane particles and access basically I think it's Dragon Force. I'm not sure if it's Dragon Force or not. He does comment on saying, I haven't even been able to accomplish Dragon Force yet. I've always been lagging behind. But yeah, then basically starts beating down on Bloodman, but then Bloodman basically says, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me, and pretty much opens a portal to hell, portal to the underworld, and starts grabbing Gajiel and to take him with him. So, and while Gajiel's being pulled in, Levi's being held back by Panther Lily, and Gajiel just has this sad moment where he's kind of reminiscing on everything and pretty much admits his love to Levi, and yeah, it was just a sad moment. And Gajiel finally gets pulled in and the portal closes. Around the same time, however, Irene has been fighting against Acnologia. And Acnologia, in human form too, so, that's fun. Acnologia looks freaking cool. So, then, during this fight, Irene activates, I believe it's called Universe 1, where she pretty much shrinks and reorganizes the entire continent. So, kind of an upgraded form of Brandish's magic. So, yeah, and Irene's whole thing is enchantments, too, so that's fun. So, yeah. Basically, she brings, the remaining Spriggan 12 to the Fairy Tale Guild, and just all these other crazy nonsense things. And Nineheart brings back a few of the Spring of 12 that were dead with his Historia powers. So yeah, it was. Oh, I forgot to mention God Serena. Okay. Yeah, I forgot. Like the 4 gods of Ishtar got involved, but it turns out that the one at the top, God Serena, he decided to defect from Ishtar and join Alvarez. So, that's fun. And he manages to beat up the remaining Ishtar 4, as well as Jura, who was pretty much the one right below them. So he might as well defeated the 4 gods of Ishtar, the new 4 gods of Ishtar, and then Acnologia strolls up. And so God Serena's like, all right, I got 8 Dragon Slayer Lacrima embedded into me, and I'm a Dragon Slayer. I shall take you to, and gets one-shotted by Acnologia. Oh boy, that's the end of him. So yeah, and he was with August and Jacob was about to attack. Well, okay, I'll see you guys in a minute. And we're back again. Sorry about that. My doormate decided to get in the shower and then sing embarrassingly to loud music. So yeah, I'm not doing that. So yeah, anyway. So basically where we left off was God Serena just got one-shotted by Acnologia, and the two Spriggan 12 members who were with him were August and Jacob was about to attack, but August told him, don't, you'll be dead before you hit the ground. So yeah, anyway, so back to Fairy Tale Guild. Jacob went on ahead and infiltrated the guild and pretty much trapped everyone in a pocket dimension, and yeah, then it was really up to Natsu and Lucy, and Natsu had just woken up to fight Jacob. So yeah, and they managed to defeat him. They get everyone out of the pocket dimension. Makarov yeets Jacob out through the door and towards the lake or the whatever, the ocean or whatever, and Natsu finishes him off. So yeah, then I'm telling this completely out of order. I'm trying not to. And then Irene uses Universe 1, and pretty much everyone gets rearranged, and even Gajiel is saved in time because it happened like pretty much as soon as the portal closed, and he was moved to a safe location, where he then met meanwhile, while this was going on, Kana, upon Mavis's request, destroyed the Luminous Sword and freed Mavis's body, and Mavis is still alive, so, that's how that was revealed. So, yeah, then Universe 1 happened. Pretty much all the Spriggan 12 and Zareth are in the Fairy Tale Guild, and it's pretty much up to everyone else to charge back in to take on this army of 1 million soldiers, plus the Spriggan 12, plus Zareth. So that's fun. And so basically the final stage of the war begins, I guess. Let's see. Then when God Serena goes to take on the ones who got there first, aka Natsu, Gray, Juvia, Lucy, and Happy. And Ursa, I forgot. He starts kind of mopping the floor with them, though initially Natsu could just eat his fire attacks, but then he started using water magic, and then wind magic, but then in the nick of time, who shows up but Gildarts, and it's awesome, and he pretty much defeats God Serena pretty handily, and then everyone else goes off to fight the army. Then a guy named I believe Invel showed up and pretty much froze everyone except for Gray, and the only reason Gray's still alive is because, immune. Kind of, not really immune, but still he's very, yeah. So yeah, everyone else is freed because, Natsu can use fire magic. So, and it's really up to Gray and Juvia to take on Invel, but then Invel utilizes this like little ice chain that conflicts with someone's mind and stuff like that. So, yeah, and basically Gray and Juvia are forced to fight each other, but they can't handle that, killing someone, so they literally turn their weapons in on themselves and try to kill themselves, and much to the chagrin of the other. And as Invo walks away from their supposedly dead bodies, Juvia uses the last of her magic to infuse Gray with her blood, and, thankfully, I guess they have the same blood type. So, yeah, and so Gray gets back up. Juvia's supposedly dead, and the only reason she's not is because Wendy was quickly on hand. And yeah, it's not, and thus basically, I guess Gajil basically begins this string of oh, they're dead. Oh, nope, they're not. Thankfully, like up until a certain character, it's not played out for that long. At most an episode. So one episode before it's confirmed that they're not dead. So, yeah. But needless to say, Gray, fueled by the anger of Juvia being supposedly killed, beats the crap out of Invel. And then Invel informs him that, well, Natsu is END. So, yeah. Fun. So meanwhile, Brandish is taking on Lucy, Natsu, and Happy, though it's mainly just Brandish versus Lucy, and it's basically revealed through Demaria, who just arrived, that Brandish isn't really trying to kill Lucy, because at any point Brandish could just enlarge their organs and make them implode. Ugh. Brandish's magic is scary. So Demaria, now angered that her brandy was corrupted by Fairy Tale, just straight up tries to kill Brandish, and blood splatters everywhere, and then takes Lucy and Natsu prisoner, and takes them out to this basement area. Then, during which she basically tries to kill Lucy, and by maiming her in the face. But then Lucy passes out and wakes up later to see that Demaria is crushed into the wall beside her and just completely just demolished. She just mumbling monster, demon, blah blah blah, that kind of nonsense. And then Perliuska and Evergreen come in along with Brandish because they've just come across Brandish and helped her and helped heal her. And then then they come in, and Perliuska upon pretty much say, and Demari is still going off like, he moved through my time stop. Only someone like END can do that. So, yeah, scared. So, thinking Lucy was dead, Natsu went nuts and completely demolished Demaria and is now off to kill Zareth. But meanwhile, Gray's on the lookout for Natsu, and they come across each other, and now it's fighting time, because the time for words has passed. So, yeah, and it's revealed that the tumor that was growing inside that Brandish had shrunk and recently enlarged to try and convince Demaria she was still on Alvarez's side. Basically, that was not an anti-ether nano tumor. It was something far worse. It was his demon tumor thing. Ugh. So then, meanwhile, there's still 1 million soldiers, and while they managed to whittle down their numbers quite a bit, it pretty much becomes certain to Makarov that after Irene enchants all the soldiers with magic and basically turns them into berserkers from Fate, he realizes that he needs to pull off one more move and a fairy law and just completely obliterate the army. This is a good idea, except on the one fact that Mavis arrives after being escaped from being held captive, that the life force within that fairy law like uses more life force the more targets that is casted, and he's casting it on millions of soldiers, on a million a soldier, million soldiers, but what you get what I mean. And it's a really heartfelt moment, and Makarov activates fairy law, wipes out about 80% of the army in his last moments, and pretty much dies. Or at least he would have if Makarov's death fake out is the only one I'm mad about, because it lasted for like 15 episodes. So yeah, and meanwhile, Natsu and Gray are still fighting, much to the annoyance and anger of Urza, who manages to jump in and stop them both. And yeah, that manages to break them out of it. They're still heavily injured, so they were basically running on adrenaline at that point, and Natsu's E&D powers, and then Natsu falls into another coma because the tumor is back, and he basically has this whole weird mind soul journey where he has to decide whether he wants to be a dragon or if he wants to be a demon. He chooses neither and chooses to be human, and that was the correct choice. So he soon wakes up and all that. So meanwhile, another guy named Larcade, he's got weird magic. He makes me uncomfortable just thinking about him. So yeah, his whole shtick, it's like basically pleasure magic. He basically makes everyone go into experience so much pleasure that they can't move. It looks like they're having orgasms. So I'm not gonna lie. So then he inflicts hunger upon them, basically, just so they can want to experience the pleasure of eating, and it's just extreme hunger. And then the third phase of his whole magic is letting them come to the extreme pleasure of going to sleep, aka eternal sleep, aka death. So, and thankfully Rogue shows up in time to help Sting with that, because other than that regular pleasure magic, he can use basically white magic, and that was having no effect on Sting, because, So, he had already inflicted hunger on Sting, and Sting's just looking for stuff to eat at that point, and Rogue says, okay, I'll give you my shadows. And Sting says, what? I can't eat another element, but I'm hungry, so I'll try anyway. And so he eats Rogue's shadows and becomes the White Shadow Dragon Slayer, and proceeds to kick the crap out of Larcade. So, yeah. Then, Gray manages to escape his confinement, I guess, the prying eyes of pretty much his guildmates, to go and find Zareth. So, and he threatens Zareth that he'd use a spell called Lost Iced Shell, which is an upgraded form of what Ur used to, take out Deliora, and what Gray threatened to use against Leon in the Galuna Island arc, but Natsu had stopped him then, and Gray apparently hadn't learned his lesson yet. So, yeah, then, but then, thankfully, and apparently Lost Ice Shell, instead of, it would not only kill its user, like the regular Ice Shell can do by turning them into ice, it would also erase his entire existence. He would all the memories that everyone had of him would disappear from their minds, and he just wouldn't exist anymore, basically. He might as well have never existed, but then Natsu, of course, comes in to stop him at the last second, because he's basically like, dude, we had this conversation years ago. You ain't doing this. So, yeah. And then, okay, yeah, I am getting a bit ahead of myself, but let's go back to Urza and Wendy, because they came across Irene. And it's revealed that Irene is Urza's mother, who had abandoned her at some point after... And apparently Irene is from like 400 to 500 years ago. She's the one who invented Dragon Slayer magic. And yeah, and so that was the thing. And yeah, she soon became pregnant with Urza, but was also, because of the fate of all Dragon Slayers back at that time, she was turning into a dragon, and basically everyone in her castle was afraid that she was becoming just like Acnologia. So, completely just unaware that Acnologia was just driven insane, like through the regular means, not because he was being turned into a dragon. So yeah, then after living for hundreds and hundreds of years, she came across Zareth, who basically reduced her back to a human, but it was really only in form, and yeah, she couldn't enjoy the pleasures of life, like eating and stuff like that, and it just felt like an empty life. So she planned to possess her unborn child, to her soon-to-be-born child at least, and yeah, it was. She earned crappiest mother of the year award at that moment, and she soon realized that and when she couldn't do that, she couldn't possess, it was just a defective enchantment. And when Wendy started using enchantments and countering Irene's even, she realized maybe it was just a sense of like she just needed like a similarity as in magic, so she took over Wendy's body, but in turn Wendy had taken over Irene's body. It was just the good old switcheroo of the whole of Captain Ginyu and all that, and yeah. So basically, yeah, it was that kind of a situation. So, but soon enough, and then, oh boy, she goes back into her own body after severely wounding Wendy's body. So basically, Wendy's basically out of the fight. So, and then she turns into a dragon because she can still do that. And yeah, and pretty much with one swipe, she breaks all of Urza's bones, and pretty much the only thing Urza can move is her arm. So, and just for the sake of overkill, Irene decides to bring in the upgraded attack of one of Jalal's attacks, where she summons a giant meteor. So, that would apparently obliterate most of the continent. So, how do we get out of this one? One guess. Urza. It's the biggest because she's Urza moment, and the only moment I'll say, yeah, this is kind of just completely out of Urza's usual ballpark. Basically, Urza, using the one arm and remaining magic she had, punches herself into the air, summons one sword towards the meteor, with one swipe destroys the entire meteor, and then on her way back down, Wendy, using last her magic, enchants Urza's sword with Dragon Slayer magic, and Urza just swipes, and there we go, and it knocks Irene out of her dragon form. What is this? It's funny, so I don't really care, but I cannot deny, yeah, it's stupid, but I can't help but have fun with it. It's hilarious to me. So yeah, then Irene like picks up Urza's sword and is about to take a stab at Urza, but then turns around and kills herself because she realized she can't hurt her daughter anymore. It's revealed that when Urza was born, Irene was about to carry out her plan, and it would have worked with enchanting herself into her newborn child. It would have worked if not for the fact that Irene just couldn't bring it upon herself to do it, and a mother's love was just too strong to do something like that. So, afraid of the temptation, she left Urza in Rosemary Village, where Urza stayed until she was captured by the cultist. So, yeah, it was just a sad moment. Sad moment. And due to Irene's death, Universe 1 just, yeah, it stops. It reorganizes and regrows everything, the continent, so it's back to normal. So yeah, then yeah, then let's see, what do I okay, I'm trying to yeah, apparently I went way I went way far ahead when I mentioned old Gray's whole lost ice shell thing. But yeah, I've already talked about that, so let's continue on. So Natsu shows up and it takes on Zeref, and he's doing kinda well, I guess. And then Larcade shows up to take out Natsu, to help Zeref take out Natsu. But Zeref was having fun with the fight and mad that Larcade, interrupted them. He straight up kills Larcade. And here's the thing, Larcade's last name was Larcade Dragneel, so everyone pretty much thought that, oh, Larcade must be Zeref's son, or whatever, because August was talking about, Zeref's child and all that. But for whatever reason, yeah, but then it's revealed by Zeref that Larcade's not his son, he's just another demon that Zeref made. So, yeah, not his father, but Larcade was led to believe that Zeref was his father, which I guess he technically is, because, created by Zeref and all that. But still, yeah. And meanwhile, I believe that takes out pretty much the rest of the Spring 12, because all the Spring 12 except for August, because the rest of them were pretty much taken out off screen. So yeah, then yeah. So now it's just August against. Oh man, I completely forgot to talk about Mest and what a horrible piece of crap he was. But yeah, I'm not gonna go into that. I'm way too far ahead of myself to go back to it. So yeah, you're just gonna have to watch the series and find out for yourself what I'm talking about. So yeah. Then August is taking on Guildarts and soon enough Kana, and Kana and Guildarts have their good old father-daughter team-up moment, and it's real that August can literally just copy any magic he sees and use it against people. It's why Guildarts' usual crash magic and even Kana's fairy glitter wasn't working. It was because that's what he was doing. But there was one type of magic you can't use, and that's holder magic. Basically, when someone enchants items with magic. So, and that's why Kana's cards, why August had to dodge Kana's cards, and why he took a lot of damage when Guildarts used his mechanical arm to punch out August. But August was still alive after that, and was planning to use an ultimate spell to bring down the entire continent with him. So, but as he was doing that, it's basically kind of revealed that August is apparently Mavis and Zeref's son. It's canonically unknown how that happened, because apparently when Mavis was in that giant crystal, the luminous Dwar, her body at least, it was revealed that there was another life within her, and that turned out to be August. So, the theory I subscribe to is the one that, is that through all the resurrection spells that Precht was using, trying to bring Mavis back, one of them happened to belong to Zeref, and it just so happened that's what created August. A bit nonsensical, I know, but it's really the only explanation that I find that makes the most sense. So, and there's no canon explanation. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with. And so basically August lived his whole life his whole childhood just on his own, and until Zeref found him and named him August, because the child reminded him of Mavis, but he never knew the truth. So, yeah, then August, but then, and all August really wanted was acknowledgement from his parents, and when he looked over and saw Mavis staring at him, because he's about to do this whole magic self-destruction to kill most of everyone on the continent. August couldn't find it within himself to do it, and deactivates the spell, but it also kills him in the process, and it's heartfelt kind of thing. But yeah, once again, like a child's love for their parent just is kind of the reverse Irene, I guess. So yeah, then so it turns out when Mavis escaped from Zeref and all them, she had grabbed the book of E&D, and so she gave it to Lucy and Gray and Happy to figure out something to do with it, just so that when when Seraph dies, Natsu doesn't die with them. So yeah, then she makes it to the Fairy Tale Guild to enact her plan of getting rid of Seraph, and so man, okay, so then Natsu's facing off against Seraph, but when Mavis shows up and Mavis tries to talk to him, like, I figured out a way to kill you. Basically, while this normally would be good news, Seraph had already given up on that, and decides to enact his plan to, use Fairy Heart, and he basically took all the magic, the infinite magic out of Mavis's body, which, Luminous Dwar, Fairy Heart, and all that, and put it into himself, and turned it into this cool, angelic-looking thing. One-shots Natsu, is about to, and pretty much uses this infinite magic to open a time rift, basically, and to go back in time. Now, meanwhile, I completely forgot about this other part. Urza, Jalal, and Wendy came face to face with Acnologia, who is now back because he was taken away by Irene's Infinity Universe 1, but now that the Universe 1 deactivated, he's back. So, yeah. But of course, when Acnologia is about to finish them off, Ichia, the god, the mad lad, came swooping in and slammed into Acnologia, and it's revealed that basically the entire Blue Pegasus, but yeah, then so they got on board, and on board with them was Anna Heartfilia, who had gone with the Dragon Slayers into the future, to raise them, but things went wrong, and the Dragon Slayers just shot into the sky, and yeah, so she's pretty much been on her own these entire like 8 to 9 years. Well, no, not really. Okay, like over probably around 30 years, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so her plan was to put Acnologia in this time rift that was created all those years ago when they went through the Eclipse Gate, and so yeah, so they managed to do that, but then right as Acnologia touched it, Seraph had closed the time rift way back in Magnolia, and and Acnologia managed to get out, and the fighting continued, and then Seraph reopened it when he got infinite magic, and now Anna and Ichia managed to get a hold of the Christina, and everyone else had jumped off by this point. But they managed to fly the Christina directly into Acnologia and seemingly sacrifice their lives to push Acnologia into the time rift of nothingness, basically. And and along with them. So so then they're supposedly gone. Supposedly. But we'll get to that later. So anyway, then back at Magnolia, Lucy is starting to try to rewrite the book of E&D, so that Natsu won't die, and so, but some of the words start disappearing, so she starts rewriting them, and Natsu's injuries start to heal. The injuries that Seraph had dealt with him in that one shot. So due to this, Natsu is able to get back up and start punching out Seraph, even though Seraph now has infinite magic. But I argue that it was established earlier on that kind of magic is infinite magic is hard to control, and Seraph could only control it for that long, and then Natsu decided to literally punch it out of him. So yeah, and so Natsu says goodbye, and Mavis explained that the only reason that Seraph didn't die along with her was because she hadn't sorted out her feelings for him. So yeah, and of course the curse of contradiction activates, and she starts wailing on him like how she loves him and hates him at the same time, and so they share one last kiss, and that's the end of Seraph and Mavis. So yeah, and then Makarov wakes up. because of course he did. But that's not the end of it. Then, yeah, then, then Acnologia bursts out of the time rift because the time rift is technically a form of magic. He's the arcane dragon slayer. He can literally eat any kind of magic, and so I'm guessing that's what he did. So yeah, then so Ichia and Anna also survived. Yay, the god Ichia is still alive. So yeah, then he takes all of the dragon slayers and puts them into his realm of his time rift realm, whatever, and while his physical body is wreaking havoc on the world, his mind and, you know, his human form are facing off against the dragon slayers. So trying to control this time rift basically by using their magic, but then they all break free and start to fight him. They stand no chance. So yeah. And so back in the real world, they pretty much come up with a solution to use Fairy Sphere and entrap Acnologia within it on a ship. So, you know, because a dragon's mortal enemy, a dragon slayer's mortal enemy is motion sickness. So yeah, then so they trap him in it and manage to, and that manages to hold down Acnologia's mind too in the time rift. And along with and Wendy enchants all of their magic into Natsu, and with one giant punch, Acnologia is killed. I forgot to mention Acnologia's backstory of he was once a doctor to dragons, but then the dragons betrayed him, and, you know, he went on a war path against all dragonkind. So, yeah, then that's how that happened. So, but anyway, Acnologia is now dead. So, yeah, then, and so the dragon slayers make it out, and basically the story's over now. Then we have one last epilogue chapter, I guess, in the manga, and then like the latter half of the last episode of the anime. In the anime, they play Snow Fairy, aka the first opening, and it's amazing, and I love it, and it's so nostalgic, and I get teary just I get teary just by thinking about it. So it's now been a year since then, and Lucy's won an award for Best New Writer, and then she got a bit too drunk and kind of passed out once, and then Natsu carried her all the way back to her room, and so yeah, then pretty much Lucy as drunk is just kind of clingy. So Natsu has something to tell her. He grabs her arm and decides, "Now I'll tell you later," and then grabs her and drags her away, and Lucy's just like, "Why?" He says, "It doesn't matter. We're gonna be together forever from now on, right?" And it's great. And so they, let's see, what else did I miss? Gagio and Levy became a thing. They're gonna have a baby soon. I know, and I only know this because, you know, because 100 Year Quest confirmed it, and I love that. So then, let's see, Shelly is starting to try to use magic again. Let's see, Nab is still looking for a job. We can't forget that guy. Then, let's see, Gray and Juvia start to look like they're gonna become a thing. Then, Urza's still waiting for Jalal to come back, because he was recently pardoned by, the princess who, no, well, now queen, Hisui. Then, let's see, I'm trying to, Makarov is basically completely out of it. Not out of it in a sense, but, like, he's never gonna be fighting or using magic again. So, yeah, then, let's see, there are many rumors about who Loxus is going out with. I subscribe to the Miro one, personally, but whatever. So, then, yeah, then Natsu reveals to Lucy that her, him, Urza, Gray, and Wendy, along with, I guess, Happy and Carla, they finally got permission to do a 100-year quest, and that's what they go out on. So yeah, I think this video's gone on long enough. This is already gonna be a 3-hour-long video now. So you know what? I'm just coming up with this right now. If you want my overall thoughts, wait until tomorrow. because I'm way too tired. It's past 8 o'clock. I've experienced way too many interruptions, and I just need, and it takes way too long to upload these things anyway. So yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah. Anyway, it's a great end, though I have a few complaints. I'll probably get to them later, so I'll get to them in the overall part. But my overall analysis of this whole thing is gonna go into the full video that I'll be releasing tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, we'll get to there. We'll get there tomorrow. So yeah, all right. So yeah, I'm just gonna like, okay, whatever. Let's just whatever.